The Red Raiders win again. 3-0 in Big 12 play. What an ugly game today against the Kansas State Wildcats. Two coaches that know each other very well from their time at Baylor. I am TJ Kern, and I have a new face with me this week as we have Austin Massey on the pod or post-game show, whatever you want to call it, as we react to Texas Tech's victory over the Kansas State Wildcats today. And Austin, man, welcome to the show.
Man, what a win. I'm on cloud nine right now. I was thinking, we're gonna have to go over to TJ. We're gonna have a kind of a sad post-game show. We got to talk about how Texas Tech was just not very good tonight, and then they closed the game out on an 11-2 run. So it's I think I saw Norris Odiasi. He tweeted like, we're about to find out a lot about this team, and I think we did tonight. It was one of the uglier performances I've seen probably of the whole year. Got the win, so I'm excited to talk about it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, bud. Welcome back to the team. And one of the things that it reminded me of so much was those Chris Beard, Mark Adams drag out, dog fights. And we talked about it a little bit on the nation's Twitter spaces just a few minutes ago that wrapped up. This team's ability to win in different ways, I think, is huge, especially come March.
It is. And we obviously touched on it some, but, just to reiterate, you go back to that final 11-2 run. And really what you saw was Texas Tech play very clean defense. They were in the bonus. Any fouls would have sent Kansas State to the line. I think Kansas State's only 2 points in that final 3-minute stretch came from 2 free throws. So, I mean, this team is really not an elite defensive team. They're good. They're above average, well above average, but they're not an elite defensive team. And what you saw tonight was them just going to a different level in that final 3-minute stretch. And then offensively, they really made every possession count. That's something tonight that I think they did struggle with, was they just kind of let Kansas State's physicality get to them. They really did. And essentially, Toussaint wasn't getting the foul calls. Pop wasn't getting the foul calls. Darian Williams wasn't getting the foul calls. Really, no one did. And Tech goes to the free throw line a lot. And I think that had them a little bit rattled. They stopped moving the ball. They kind of reverted back to the whole stand around and wait to the last second thing. So what they didn't do in that final, couple minute stretch was, they just were aggressive. And I think that that's the key to this team's success offensively.
Yeah, I had lack of ball movement as one of my things, one of my notes here. I also had, and I want to give them credit for this. I wanted this team to get off to a fast start. Your first 2 Big 12 games, you kind of struggled out of the gate. This team, first 10 minutes, played fantastic today.
They really did. And it was like, wow, this was a breath of fresh air. Oklahoma State, they really struggled out of the gate. And they obviously turned it on and they never looked back against Oklahoma State. But tonight they really struggled. It felt like essentially from 8 minutes in, or about 12 minutes into the first half, I don't think they scored a basket. They went 7 minutes without scoring in the first half to close out the first half. They ended up only scoring 22 points in the first half, which is pretty incredible considering I believe they had like 14 points after the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game. They were really, had a hot start offensively. So really a great start. Let off the gas. Kansas State's, they hit 6 3-pointers in a row to close out the half. And Texas Tech just weathered the storm. I need to actually go and look, but I believe so. Let's see here. I'll pull it up shortly, but sorry, Texas Tech only led for 13 minutes in this game, which is more than I would have thought. I guess most of that probably came in the first half, actually. And if I had to guess, they only led for a couple seconds in that second half.
Yeah, it wasn't much, that's for sure. And one of the things that I had at halftime when they were down 10, I said, Warren Washington needs to get involved offensively.
Yeah, and he did, right? I mean, he literally He came right. I believe he scored the first bucket of the second half, didn't he? I think he did. But I mean, he just continues to get better and better. I'm so impressed with him. Heading into the season, I didn't ever see him as a guy that would score 15 points a game for Tech. And I saw him as a guy that was a good rim protector, very athletic, could grab rebounds. And he was very good at getting, alley oops and lobs and things like that. But he's really, in credit to the staff. Same with Darian Williams, but I'd say Warren Washington and Darian Williams, they, throughout the season, you'll see them backing guys down. You'll see them doing little hook shots. You'll see them getting a lot of and ones, and just drawing a lot of fouls in general. And then, like you mentioned it on the space, Warren Washington has been pretty decent for a 7-footer, at the free throw line. Darian Williams has obviously been very, very, very good shooting from the free throw line. But super impressed. Texas Tech's front court is not their strength just because their guards are so good. But I mean, this is a very promising sign for this Texas Tech team that Warren Washington is really taking his game to a whole new level that he frankly hasn't done throughout his career.
And another thing that we brought up on the space was, and I was actually going to say it right when you did. This was a game where they definitely could have used Devin Cambridge, and you're seeing this team learn how to play without Devin Cambridge and still come away with victories.
You are. And I think that tonight, where Devin Cambridge would have helped is, of course, defensively. But I think he would have been able to match Kansas State's physicality. I think that, Jerome Tang, when you think about his teams, you think about length, very similar to a Chris Beard team, very tough, very physical, long, athletic people. And essentially, Devin Cambridge was that for Tech. So with Devin Cambridge out, Tech has to go small. They start 3 guards who are 6'4" and under. Curran Moulton's probably about 6'4". I don't think he's 6'5", but regardless, you start 3 guards who are, none of them are super big. Devin Cambridge would have probably helped a little bit with their slashing. He wasn't really necessarily like a knockdown shooter or a 3-point shooter. He could hit them every now and then. But again, as a coach, you got to work with what you got. Injuries happen. Grant McCaslin's not going to sit around making excuses. Kerwin Walton, he had his moments tonight. I think that pretty much all of Tech's shooters were just not very good tonight. But he still did a couple things that I thought were very important. He had a couple baskets that were pretty clutch. And then same thing with Chance McMillian. I think he hit a couple big baskets there in the second half as well.
Yeah, I've claimed Chance McMillan as my guy for the year. I mean, I just watching him out there. I love his style. I love his play. He kind of reminds me of Reggie Miller a little bit when he just catches the ball and lets it fly from deep. Um, and he's not scared of the moment. He took a big shot late in that game, and then we both thought that we were going to ice it with a Pop Isaacs three, but it wasn't his day today.
It wasn't, and it wasn't Joe Toussaint's night either. Both of those guys, you're rarely going to see them both struggle in a game, but this season, it was a very unique thing. And then, I mean, you could even say, your other guards struggled too. Kerwin Walton and Chance McMillan. I mean, they both, Tech was 5 of 20 on the night, from 3. Pop was 1 of 7 from 3. I mean, no one shot the 3 well tonight. No one. McMillan was 1 of 7 from 3. So
Yeah,
it's this Texas Tech team actually has formed a little bit of an identity for being a good shooting 3-point team. They don't take a ton of 3-point shots, but they do hit them at a pretty high percentage. So I thought tonight maybe they settled for too many threes. Again, I think that ties into Kansas State's physicality and keeping them out of the paint. But to that point, Texas Tech did outscore Kansas State in the paint tonight. Sorry. So that was a promising kind of sign, I guess, especially for a physical team like Kansas State. But yeah, bad shooting night. You probably won't see Tech. They may have a couple more games like this where they make 5 3-pointers. But again, if I had any complaints, I would say maybe especially during that 7-minute stretch, I think they really settled for too many 3-pointers. I think they just kind of let that physicality get to them. But this will be a great learning lesson for them. In March, every team's going to play just like Kansas State played tonight. Hopefully Tech gets there, obviously, but really good start, 3-0 start to conference play. Tech is, one of the 2 only undefeated teams in the Big 12. They're the only Big 12 team that's undefeated that's played 3 games so far. Baylor plays game tonight against Cincinnati. But I mean, starting 3-0 in the best conference in college basketball with a brand new coach, a brand new team. I mean, as a Texas Tech fan, you got to be ecstatic.
Definitely have to be ecstatic considering where this program was a year ago. And I mean, we would do these post games. We would do Twitter Spaces after those games that were just beat downs, and I mean, it literally beat us down. Um, and then to have a few guys come back, Lamar Washington, Robert Jennings specifically, obviously Pop as well. I mean, right now you're playing 8 guys, and so not a lot of depth. So I mean, this team can't afford to lose another guy to injury because of the situation with the roster right now. But I thought Lamar Washington's layup, whatever that was under the basket there, that was such a huge play late in the game.
It was, and actually, you talk about Lamar Washington and Robert Jennings. I thought both of them, in their limited capacity, were both very good. I think Robert Jennings had a couple free throws in the first half. He actually played pretty good defense. He put up a fit against McNair, I believe his name was, who's a much bigger body than him. So he held his own in the paint tonight defensively. But yeah, the bench is pretty short right now for Texas Tech. I don't think I will say that something to monitor is Robert Jennings is starting to get more run, which is I think you're starting to see Grant McCaslin trust him a little bit more, and he's starting to kind of work his way into the rotation, still on a limited capacity, just because Warren Washington and Darian Williams are so they're so important to the team's success. It's hard to pull those guys. But I also thought another observation I had tonight was that it felt like at times, and again, Pop really struggled tonight, but it felt like when he went off the court, especially early in the second half, he got that injury, and then he had 2 fouls, so McCaslin pulled him to the bench. Felt like every time he went off the court, Texas Tech's offense really kind of sputtered. So I don't know, if that was a spacing thing. I really don't know, but I think that Toussaint just had a little bit of a rough game as a primary ball handler. And then, when Pop went to the bench, it felt like the offense just kind of shut down almost. So something to keep an eye on.
Well, yeah, definitely. Because at one point I looked at the box score and Tucson was 2 of 9, and I just think that went to the physicality of this game and how the refs wanted to call this game. You got to give them credit; they were consistent the entire game. But I'm sitting there. Tucson's he's 6 foot tall, trying to get to the rim. I'm taller than he is, trying to get to the rim, and I mean he's getting mugged a little bit. I mean I'm not the type to blame the referees or say we didn't get this call or that call, but it was definitely a physical basketball game. It felt like a Big 12 tourney game or a game you'd see in March.
It really did, and I think that you won't see many games like this again where Toussaint gets roughed up so much and doesn't get those foul calls. There was but to your point, at least the refs were pretty consistent across the board. I don't think they really were lighting either team up one way or the other. I thought they really just let these guys play, and I can respect that. I think as a guard, that's frustrating, especially as you're an undersized guard like Toussaint. But yeah, I mean, your 2 best players, Pop Isaacs was 2 of 11 from the field tonight. He was 5 of 5 from the free throw line, so that's something to at least a positive there. He only had 1 turnover. And then you had Joe Toussaint, 4 of 13 from the field. So I mean, your best 2 players were a combined of 6, whatever, 20, 25 or something. So it wasn't a great shooting night. And Texas Tech's strengths kind of faltered tonight. So again, I want to reiterate, good teams have to win whenever their best players struggle, right? So tonight was a great example of that. I thought that the end of the game, that final defensive possession was just really fantastic. I don't think, if I was a Kansas State fan, maybe I would question the play call a little bit. I don't necessarily know if I just, want to toss the ball in to Perry. I mean, Perry is, he's an elite guard. I wish they would have done something maybe a little bit more creative there and try to get the ball inside. But as a Texas Tech fan, I'm all here for it.
No doubt about it. And talk about adjustments, right? You talk about halftime adjustments with this team. Grant McCaslin Tyler Perry, his former stud player at UNT, goes to Kansas State, gets red hot there in the first half when Tech got ice cold. But in the second half, whatever adjustments they made defensively on him seemed to work.
Yeah, and I think it was very interesting to start the game. I believe they had Kerwin Walton on Kaluma, which was surprising to me. I thought that that's a testament to how the staff respects Kaluma's speed because he is quick for being a wing. But I believe in the second half, what you saw was they put Joe Toussaint on Perry, and they essentially kind of face guarded him, put very high pressure on the ball. They also tried to deny the entry passes to Perry, so they tried to keep the ball out of his hands. But then once he did get the ball, they really, Toussaint was in his face with his hands out, trying to deny passes and really just keep him from getting open looks. So really, they didn't do anything too crazy. I think that Kansas State just naturally started to miss some 3-point shots. They're just, again, you got to stick to the analytics. The analytics say they're not a good 3-point shooting team. And Tech really just they did a great job of locking him down, but Kaluma too. I mean, Kaluma was pretty quiet in the second half. I don't want to pull up the stats right now, but I don't remember him scoring too many buckets in the second half. And the guy is elite. He's one of the best wings in the Big 12. So great offense or great defensive adjustments, but also great intensity from just from the team in general. I thought that you can put together a great game plan, but if you don't go out there and execute, especially it's easy to lose your focus when you're down. So credit to Texas Tech. I thought one thing that I thought kind of crushed them a couple times throughout the night was the offensive rebounding, but somehow they still finished the box score with more offensive rebounds. So good for them.
Yeah, we definitely rebounded the ball well, which with only one true big, I mean that's going to be huge for Tech going forward when you play some of these teams in the Big 12 that have bigger front courts.
It is, yeah, it really is. I mean, I'm honestly looking at the final box score here. I'm pretty shocked that Texas Tech out rebounded them on the offensive glass. They did get beat on the defensive glass pretty good. But like I said on the space earlier, the two stats that pop out. Texas Tech had 9 turnovers to Kansas State's 18. That is a big, and they still only won by 1 point, which you could look at that and be like, that's a little concerning. But then you look at Kansas State's 3-point shooting numbers and you go, okay, well, that makes more sense. And then you look at Tech shooting numbers as well. But also the free throws. I'm going to keep reiterating that because that free throws win games come March. So that's very promising to me. And I don't know. I think that when you look at that, you maybe would accredit to your coaching or practice or something like that. Probably a combination of both things. I also think this team just has pretty good shooters in general.
And on a tough night for the shooters, I mean, you're talking, we looked at it earlier. It was like 36% from the field and 20% from three or something like that for the game. You find a way to win. Good teams find a way to win. And we are on the nation's official post game wrap up. I am TJ Kern. I am joined by Austin Massey. And Austin, before we get out of here, man, we just got to talk about the balance of the box score.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the balance is something that this team's just go look at the stats from the season. Like this team is very well distributed in terms of their points per game. You obviously have Pop and Toussaint, who are kind of your leading scorers, and who they're gonna probably give you the most points every night. But this team, the players that are in the core rotation that are getting anywhere of 20 minutes and up per game. I mean, I think Tech has I think Tech's entire core rotation is averaging over 8 to 9 points per game. So it's not shocking to see their, entire starting lineup, besides Kerwin Walton, in double figures. But again, it's just this team is deep at the guard spot. I can't reiterate that enough. Chance McMillan and Kerwin Walton, those guys they're good players, right? And I think Kerwin Walton has been struggling shooting a little bit the last few games, but he's just I trust him to take open 3-point shots. I do. And Chance McMillan, I mean, he hit like 8 3-point shots against Butler. So yes, this team is deep. You're gonna get, it doesn't shock me at all to see kind of the distribution amongst points between the guards. But also that I think the really key to this 3-0 start has been Warren Washington and kind of his ability to really just be the leader of the team, make the tough plays. And it seems like the one thing I will say about Warren Washington is he's always the guy that Grant McCaslin, if Texas Tech's offense is struggling, he's the guy that they're going to go to get them out of a rut, right? So, they came out of the second half. I believe they threw him the ball down on the low block, and he just kind of went to work and he hit a nice little, 10 foot shot. So that is something to keep an eye on. But yes, this team has great balance, and that's honestly that is a very important thing as we go down Big 12 play.
Yeah, before we get out of here on the Nation's official post-game show wrap up, um, why don't we have a new podcast under the Nation's realm? Why don't you let everybody know what you've got cooking?
Yeah, so I have a Hub City Hoops Talk podcast with Jacob Harris. So we're gonna try to be better about posting. We actually started this a couple months ago, but things got kind of crazy. Jacob and I were kind of in between some different professional opportunities in the sports media world. So happy to be back with Guns Up Nation and kind of just with the team. But yeah, we're gonna be posting stuff, 2 times, 3 times a week. You can find our YouTube channel. It's Hub City Hoops Talk. And yeah, and we'll also be doing spaces with TJ and Blake, it sounds like, moving forward after every game. So I know that there's a lot of other spaces out there that have been really consistent, but we're going to get out there and try it ourselves too. So feel free to drop in and ask questions there with us always too.
All right, man. Well, thanks for filling in for Blake today. And, we'd love to have you on a little bit more. I think we're working on getting you on our podcast as well. A little cross promotion for both of us. But thanks for filling in today, man. And we always get out of here with one big rectum. So let me hear you say it.
Wreck 'em, baby.
Yes, sir. And we will talk to you guys next time on the Nation's official postgame show or the Nation's podcast or my Hub City Hoops Talk. Did I say it right?
You said it right. That's right.
There we go. So a lot of tech action coming at you guys, and we will talk to you guys next time.